Titans, hello. Not a ton of exotic adjustments for y'all, but today we are going to vibe check all of the exotics that got set adjustments in the Edge of Fate patch. First, though, I do want to talk about Wishful Ignorance real quick. This got a substantial buff, which I talked about in a previous video, by the way, if you want to go check that out. That being said, that 200% number that we started with in Edge of Fate is now down to 120%, so it did get a bit of a nerf down from, like, you know, ungodly amounts of damage to simply insane amounts of damage. I still think the build is very strong, it's just not game-breakingly strong anymore. Otherwise, a bunch of melee bonuses on certain exotics have been increased, but their functions have not changed. Heart of Inmost Light, that damage boost has gone from 20 to 50% on your melee. Peregrine Greaves was 363%, now it's 400% even. Spirit of the Syntheseps no longer has its melee damage bonus decreased when used with Combination Blow, Stylish Executioner, and Glaive melee. It's more of like a hunter thing, if anything, because they have an insane grapple melee setup right now. And Worm God Crest, which I've seen quite a lot of on Titan, had its maximum bonus boosted to 400% as well, up from 275, which has also given Titan their own grapple melee insanity build that we'll hopefully discuss. Anyway, let's talk about exotics that did get some adjustments and figure out what happened. Phoenix Cradle does quite a lot now. It already did the following. Soul Invictus lasts twice as long, which is the buff from standing in a sunspot, and allies can get Soul Invictus from your sunspots. It now also does the following. Dealing sustained solar damage in a sunspot extends the duration of it, which is pretty good. And applying solar buffs to allies has a chance to just make a sunspot at your feet. While I do think there are more interesting options for people to play with on Solar Titan, there is basically no disputing the power of Sunspots and Soul Invictus. The effect is really strong, it gives great benefits, good insurance, low copay, but the setup you would run is simply Sunspots, like just making them. It feels more like a support setup, which is fine, nothing wrong with a support setup, but the goal is just make sunspots everywhere. Now, you can do that even better with this buff, so like really good buff for the sunspot enjoyers. But if you want a build that actually has a little more interesting loop, a little more interesting gameplay loop, then I think you have some other options to play with. But for those of you who want maybe more of a passive experience, these are going to be your go-to for sunspot stuff. Crest of Alpha Lupi had a couple of shifts. Sustained damage behind a barricade now triggers another smaller healing pulse, and healing your allies grants barricade energy. When I tell you that this exotic feels insane now in PvE, I mean it. I really mean it. I use this for the majority of my non-boss and some chunks of boss damage situations during the contest mode of Desert Perpetual. And brother, let me tell you, I did not die. I don't know what changed, but behind a barricade, I felt invincible. Things that would normally be a massive threat, I just tanked all of it. I tanked it all. This is all purely anecdotal evidence, but it's a lot of it, and I've heard similar stories from other people. The unfortunate part of this is just that it's an exotic that doesn't have that much use in the lower end of content where things are a bit easier and you're constantly moving forward or moving around. But once you start to climb up, you know, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 levels above, you're in that mythic content maybe, the value just grows and grows. If you're looking for a defensive option, Crest is here and it's doing a real good job at keeping people alive. The Mark 44 stand-asides have changed up a bit. Sprinting with Juggernaut active gives you bolt charge slowly over time, and sprinting while amplified creates an area behind you that gives your teammates speed booster. Note that also being shot when you have Juggernaut shield up will also give you bolt charge. That is just a part of Juggernaut itself though. The power fantasy here is you leading your team and them following you to wherever you're going. The problem, at least in PvE, is that you need to run Juggernaut. And considering the state of Arc Titan in PvE right now, which is essentially a bolt charge bot, Storm's Keep is it's getting the job done there. Although I guess you could run Juggernaut with Storm's Keep, but like, why not run Touch of Thunder? I don't know anyone who takes Juggernaut that seriously in PvE whatsoever, and for the most part, I think this is a non-starter in PvE. Surprising probably no one. In PvP, on the other hand, this could lead to some situations where Titans are just manically sprinting around trying to build up some bolt charge to then unleash onto a target, giving them as much of an advantage as possible in every fight they so choose. The issue is actually deploying said bolt charge, as Juggernaut only works when you have full class ability energy, and the easiest way to deploy bolt charge from a safe distance is by using a barricade. Plus, that is a lot of time spent building up charge for a single gunfight. I don't know if this is happening anywhere in PvP. I've heard yes. I've heard no, but it's out there. It's technically out there. Path of Burning Steps is also another pretty generic Solar Titan exotic, with it getting more of an identity now. Increases your solar weapon damage and solar ignition damage based on how many stacks of Roaring Flames you have. It also still has the whole thing about breaking out at a freeze. You're harder to suspend, slow, or freeze, and when you break out, you don't take any damage, and you create a burst of solar energy around yourself. I wasn't super impressed with the bonus solar damage. This is taking my Devil's Ruin from 188 on a headshot to 210 at maximum stacks, a gain of around 11-12%. I tested on a couple of other weapons, and all of them were around this same 11 to 12% number. Alternatively, my ignitions, using Devil's Ruin anyway, because it does ignitions now, go from 779 damage, scaling up to 950 at one stack, which is a 22% gain, then 1019 damage, which is only a 7.25% gain from the previous, then 1091 at maximum stacks, which is just over 7% of that previous number. 779 to 1091 is a 40% increase in ignition damage, though. So, I don't know, the scaling seems a little bit weird. Maybe it's just Devil's Ruin causing some weirdness there, or maybe they wanted to front load a lot of this bonus so that if you had one stack of Roaring Flames, you would really feel it with the ignitions, and then the higher stacks, it kind of falls off a little bit. I'm not sure. Funnily enough, we just vibe checked Devil's Ruin, and it is obviously a great match for Path of Burning Steps, as it does both solar weapon damage and solar ignition damage, right? I've been doing some Ashen Wake testing as well recently, but something that I haven't been liking about Ashen Wake is it in group play at higher levels, because it can feel like there's a bit to micromanage sometimes. Path of Burning Steps could potentially run into some similar problems, which is mainly just related to keeping up stacks of Roaring Flames and keeping them high at all times. Sometimes it's very easy to do, sometimes it's really difficult to do. I do think Ashen Wake is a bit more fun than Path, simply because spamming super hard-hitting grenades is just a bit more fun than holding M1 with a solar weapon, right? So, yeah, I don't know, again, it's just another kind of passive, more passive exotic. Abeyant Leap got buffed by increasing the suspend duration when applied by enhanced Dranger's Lashes. Let's look at all the versions of Dranger's Lash. So we got Lash, and then Lash with Continuity, and then Abeyant, and then Abeyant Continuity. On the target frames in the shooting range, it's about 6.5 seconds at base, 8.5 seconds with Continuity. With Abeyant Leap, it's 6.5 seconds base, and 8.5 seconds with Continuity, which is the same. Okay, so then I was like, is it only with the projectiles that go left and right that give the extended duration? And it's not. It's not. They're all the same. So then I tried on some orange bar Cabal instead, and it was still the same. And then I tried it on some red bars, and it was the same. And then I tried it on Champions. I think it was basically the same. And then I tried it in PvP, and that was the same. So, like increase the suspend duration when applied by enhanced Dranger Lashes. So nothing happened here. Is it not working? Am I not understanding what got buffed? I don't know. I assumed that, like, you know, just from reading that patch note, you would get like an extra second or two of suspend with the boots on. And, yeah, nothing. I don't actually know what happened with this. And if something like increased suspend duration needs more elaborate testing than what I've done to see what's happening, either nothing happened, or you got to give it more, or maybe we need some more clarity in the patch notes. Here's the thing, though. I still want to make an abeyant leap build for some endgame stuff. Just using this thing again, plus the new armor stat changes, make it possible to spam some more suspends than I feel like we used to be able to. You can be like a debuffer running around with a lot of suspend and then thread of isolation, right, to apply a bunch of sever. But I feel like I'm going insane here, and I cannot wait to have a Discord message 7 minutes after this video goes live telling me exactly what I messed up, because I don't know. I don't know. It's driving me crazy. Finally, Actium War Rig is now basically Worm God's Crest, but for auto rifles and machine guns, where kills increase your stability, ammo gen, and damage with said weapons. It stacks up to 10 times, and the meter keeping track will deplete faster at higher stacks. Again, similar to Worm God. So, what kind of damage bonus are we talking? A test on pyroelectric propellant. We go from 58 to 67 damage at maximum stacks, which is around 15.5%. Using Choir of 1, our damage starts at 618 on a headshot, scaling up to 722 at maximum stacks, which is just under 17%. Tested on a commemoration, we start at 278 and end at 322, which is just under 16%. So somewhere in that 15 to 17% range is mainly what we're going to be looking at in terms of the damage bonus. The stacks do indeed disappear pretty quickly at the high end, but they will also stick around on the higher stack numbers for a couple of seconds to give you a chance to keep it rolling. Once it hits 5, the stacks fall off much slower, and this does appear to be a pretty linear damage boost, so you're not going to see these like bigger swings of damage at the high end. There are other bonuses like the ammo gen and the stability, but the damage is the easiest thing to just, you know, quantify. Ammo generation is pretty much always going to be a good stat. The ammo pulled from reserves into your weapon just depends on how much ammo you have per magazine on that weapon. Pyroelectric propellant has 60 rounds. We're getting 6 back a tick. That's 10%. Choir of 1 was given back 3 for a magazine of 25. I'm guessing that's just some rounding because, you know, 2.5 shots per tick is not possible. Something to note is that if your magazine is already overflowed, Actium will not restore ammo to the mag until you are under the base magazine. My commemoration has 150 shots in the mag due to reconstruction. The regeneration does not start until I'm under 75 shots, which is the base size of that magazine. I have made an Actium Choir of 1 double special loadout that I plan on trying out in the very near future to test, and if I like it enough, I will probably end up making a video on it. But the basics are to just stack as much weapon stat and ammo gen as possible, run with autos and machine guns, and hold M1 at everything. I'm likely going to use an Arc Titan for Storm's Keep and just sit behind some barricades, although a more defensive Strand Titan, like we just talked about, could also work out somewhat nicely. Titans, that's your vibe check. I'm working on everyone else next. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.